Hello and welcome to Easy Like a Sunday Morn. I'm your host Shane Lockwood, and today is the 24th of January 2016. This is episode 50. Welcome aboard. I want to say thank you to everybody who listens to the podcast through iHeartRadio, through YouTube, through Stitcher, through TuneIn, and every other app or podcast platform out there. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today is a little bit of an unplanned ragbag rambling show. I do have notes and things like that. There are things I want to talk about. But before we get into that, I want to thank you all for making it into 2016. There were a lot of people who didn't make it into 2016, and I wish them well. I hope that they rest in peace wherever they are. High on the list is David Bowie. I think that was one of the more shocking ones. Struggled with cancer for such a long time. Absolute music legend, music great. I wasn't a fan of a lot of his work. I did enjoy Labyrinth, the movie. But everybody could listen to a Bowie song. And I think you'll have your favourites and things like that. But moving on. Alan Rickman, who also had cancer, I think, died at the age of 69. Who was the other one? I think it was Lemmy from Motorhead. Also had cancer. I think also in his late 60s. But I'm not 100% sure on the date on that. Please don't quote me on that. I'll probably get hate mail. But I'm not sitting in front of Google, and there's a reason for that. I'll tell you later. The guy that played Grizzly Adams passed away at the age of 77. This is what really struck me. Grizzly Adams was an absolutely fantastic show. Absolutely brilliant show as a kid. Lots of happy memories associated with watching that show. The other thing that died was my computer, and as a result, I'm having to record this podcast on an older phone that I've had to recharge. My other phone died as well yesterday. It won't recharge. I'll have to get that fixed as well. But my computer died because I mistakenly and rather stupidly installed something on my hard drive that I thought was from a trusted source. The program was called Unhack Me. It's UNHACKME. Please Google it and do not install it on your computer. You'll see why once you've done that. It's a registry editor, and it's supposed to go through and clean things up. What it does is pretty much destroys your registry, and my computer will not boot into Windows anymore. So all of my logos and stuff are trapped. All my precious files are trapped on that hard drive that will not boot. Now, the only way I can retrieve those files is if I surgically remove my hard drive and place it into another computer as a slave hard drive. If you don't know what that means, in very basic terms, you've got your master drive, and then you've got your subsequent drives, which are called slaves. A computer needs to know within a certain hierarchy which hard drive it should be looking at first. So you can, when the computer turns on, it goes through a certain process, and you can tell the computer in the BIOS, right? You can look that up, BIOS. It can look up where to start up from. So is it going to get its starting information from the main hard drive, the master hard drive, or is it going to get its information from a slave hard drive, or is it going to get its information booting off a CD or from a USB thumb drive? You can tell that to the computer in the BIOS. I can't even operate the BIOS, and it's put a password protection on my BIOS, so I can't even change anything, even if I wanted to, right? Absolutely nasty piece of programming. You do not want it on your hard drive. If somebody shares a free link to it, tell them not to, tell them off. I am not furious with the person, because they did have a little bit of a disclaimer and say, download at your own risk and at your own peril, rah rah rah. And I should have just steered well clear, but my own fault. But the drawback of that is my computer's dead. I can't edit video for YouTube, and I can't edit this podcast to cut out all the ums and ahs and the stuff that I probably should be doing, but I neglected to do a while ago. But it doesn't matter. We're moving on. Speaking of phones, the photo manipulation. It's not until your computer dies that you're actually confronted with what your real passions in life are. These are the things that you use your computer for. I can still access the internet through another computer that's got like a limited battery life. I can only access the internet for like 4 hours a day. But the point is that I love photo manipulation, editing video. I love the stuff that I do for you guys. I wish that it was more popular, and I wish that it generated more money, and the money that I could generate turned into better equipment, better quality videos, more entertaining stuff, and I could actually be in a position where I could actually give back to the YouTube community a lot more than what I currently am. But the other thing was that my phone decided it wasn't going to recharge. And you have to understand that I use a lot of second-hand equipment. A lot of us do, because we just can't afford to go out and buy a $2,000 computer, or the latest $600 mobile phone. So we're stuck with what our friends can help us out with, or whatever. So this is currently being recorded on an iPhone 3. I have an iPhone 4 that won't charge, and I've got an Android with a limited battery, which I could possibly use, but we'll see. I'm just leaving it charging in case of emergencies and stuff. But the point of this is that I had downloaded a couple of apps, because in what I call the first few weeks of January, we all get this January-itis, this New Year's resolution curse, where you are compelled to want to lose weight. Now, you might not have gained that much weight over the holidays. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But this January-itis is where you need to lose weight. You're compelled to lose weight. You're compelled to write New Year's resolutions. You're compelled to make this year better than the last year. It doesn't matter how good the last year was, you can do better. And just because the calendar's changing, you think that this next 365 days are going to be the best ever. And as I said with the intro and the obituary at the beginning, this is not necessarily the case. But we're caught in that cycle. So what I did was I went, okay, I'll download two apps. One is called Runkeeper, and these are free. Runkeeper monitors your walking and running, and it puts a nice GPS map of where you've gone, and it tells you how many calories you've burnt doing different activities and things like that. Beautiful little app. There's another app called Lose It, LOSEIT, apostrophe, exclamation mark. Another free app. What this one does is it monitors your food intake and your weight loss and stuff like that. So what you do is you can fuse those two apps together, right? They're very, very smart. You can link them together so that you can type in, okay, well, I'll have cornflakes for breakfast with milk and, a little bit of sugar. So you type in all the calorie information, right? And a lot of it's already on the program for you. And then what you do, you say, well, I'll go for a bit of a jog. So you start the Runkeeper app, you go for a bit of a jog, and you would have put in Lose It, what you had for breakfast. So you go for a bit of a jog, and it calculates the distance and the calories that you've burnt at your jog. So you come back, and we go into the Lose It, and it'll tell you how many kilojoules you've burnt off. Not calories, kilojoules. Because it's easier to think in kilojoules than it is to think in calories, because a lot of businesses here in Australia now are required by law to display kilojoule information. So if you go to a bakery, you'll see that a meat pie can have up to 2,000 kilojoules of energy. That's about 500 calories. The difference between calories and kilojoules, if you want to do the conversion, is I think 1 calorie is 4 kilojoules. But because the app's in kilojoules, you can see, for example, if you go into Burger King or Hungry Jack's, as it's called here in Australia, and you look at the kilojoule information for a double Whopper, one of my former delicacies, absolutely love a double Whopper. It's 5,556 kilojoules of energy, right? So it's well over 1,000 calories. Well over. Bad. Well, not bad so much as when you look at how many kilojoules you burn just from walking, say a kilometre, and the bad news is you have to walk a kilometre just to burn 100 calories, which is 400 kilojoules. So you would have to walk over 10 kilometres to burn off a double Whopper. When you stop and think of it like that, when you start, and then when you see the kilojoule information, it becomes a deterrent. Oh yeah, okay. Now with the weight loss apps, what they do is you put in your height, you put in your weight, your age, and so on, your name, your gender, so basically how much weight you want to lose. You've got a goal weight. And you say, and how fast you want to lose the weight. So if you want to lose, say, 1 kilogram every week, right? That's a healthy thing, right? It gives you a limit on how many kilojoules you should be eating for the day. Now, obviously, you can eat more the more you work out, but your energy expenditure needs to be greater than what you're putting into your body. And so far mine hasn't been, right? But I've kept within the kilojoule restriction, but I need to be doing a lot more running and a lot more moving and really changing what I eat and how often I eat and things like that. When I was going to Fred's Van, which is a soup kitchen, they would have like a lot of hot dogs, right? And pasta with meat, various soups and things like that. Sandwiches with meat and fruit and vegetables and tinned food and things like that, which is great, absolutely fantastic, right? But there's a tendency to overindulge in that sort of stuff, and really, 1 or 2 hot dogs is too much. A hot dog has so much, or a Savoy kind of sausage has so much fat in it, so much salt in it. If you want to lose weight, if you want to lose weight, salt and sodium is very, very bad. But the amount of crap, a hot dog, a piece of sausage on white bread, it's so bad for you. It's just amazing. But you can see how bad it is in the app because the numbers don't lie. The numbers there in front of you. And you have to be honest. And you have to be honest. It only works if you're being honest, right? And most of us have sedentary lifestyles, right? You can't say that you don't. Most of us do. No, you may work, and these apps are brilliant because you can put in every little activity that you do, not just walking and running and whatever else. It's if you're working, the little fiddly things. If you're doing housework and stuff like that. If you're meditating burns a small amount of calories, right? But it's enough. But it adds up, right? So you can do all these sort of things. The other thing is these apps you can add your friends to these apps if they're using these apps, and there's like an accountability there because other people can see what you're doing, right? And you can encourage each other and egg people on. My good friend Adam, who listens to the podcast every time I upload it, he's a great supporter because I can see, okay. I can sort of compete against him a little bit, right? I can see, okay, well, he's walked 2 kilometers today. Oh, okay, well, I'll see if I can do 3. And you can do little things like that. But it's not meant to be competitive, but you can monitor your stuff. The other mistake that I made was I threw out my bathroom scales because I was listening to vegan cultists. Freely and Durian Rider. Freely the Banana Girl and Durian Rider. These people are cult leaders, really. They basically lie, and they've manipulated the YouTube system to the point where you cannot debunk what they're doing because they will attack you en masse. They have troll accounts. It's just really, really bad. But they had encouraged me and everybody else that you don't need to look at the scales because you only get depressed. And so you throw away scales and eat nothing but fruit. You'll be lean and mean and fit and healthy and whatever. Not all fruits are healthy. That may be shocking to you, but it's the truth. Not all fruits are healthy. Bananas are actually bad for you. Very bad for you. Okay, not very bad for you, but you'd be better off eating a Granny Smith apple. In terms of fruit, it's the best fruit you can have, a Granny Smith apple, because it does not cause a sharp... Actually, this is the thing. I was listening to a podcast last year, and I had written notes, but I can't find them, in regards to fruit and vegetables and foods you should be eating, foods you should be avoiding. And foods that have a lot of red in them are usually very good. Tomatoes, beetroot, those sorts of things are relatively good for you. The foods to avoid were like things like red apples, like Fuji apples and things like that, in favour of green apples. But what they were saying was that the greatest risk of heart attacks is not from eating fatty foods, but rather from spikes in your blood sugar from eating certain kinds of fruit. And you can get heart disease from eating certain kinds of fruit. So stick with the green apples and plenty of broccoli. I think that was a good one. But then I've heard that broccoli can cause a bit of bloating, stomach bloating. So there's a whole heap of foods like that. I had them in my notes. If I can find them in my notes, if I can find my notes for next week's show, I will do so. Put them in this week's show. So do not quote me on that until I can get some proper advice. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a dietitian. I'm only reporting the science that I've heard. But there was a whole list of foods. Oh, the other thing was that tomato paste, once it's cooked, has more antioxidants in it than just raw tomatoes. And that's one of these strange things, because these raw vegan cultists don't want people to cook their food. You know, like cooked food's bad. And I like steamed broccoli, right? It's a delicacy. I like it. You don't have to cook it for very long. You just have to soften them up just a little bit, so they've still got that crunch, but they're soft. You know, like they've got a bit of heat to them. You know, you can add anything to the broccoli. You know, soy sauce. Soy sauce is a bad one. Soy sauce is so filled with sodium. It's not funny. You want to avoid that at all costs. Speaking of food, I have I wanted to do some volunteer work, and it fell through. But the place I was going to be doing volunteer work was for the Playford Food Co-op in Smithfield, and they'd been closed for the last 6 months because there was a fire in the neighbouring shop, and it destroyed a lot of the stock and whatever else. So they've been slowly but surely like rebuilding and things like that. They reopen this Wednesday. Now, but the Wednesday after, on the 4th of February, they're having an open day opening celebration. And they're having like a free barbecue, and I think if you buy 3 meal packs, you get a free energy pack. But I think there are limits on how many things you can buy and things like that for that special to take place. But do get down there and support them, because I went down there and I had a bit of a culture shock, because I didn't realise how abusive and toxic my previous employment was, because you do things for money. You just tolerate all the put-downs, all the fat shaming, all the nonsense, right? And speaking of being overweight, I'm at my heaviest, right? So I went and bought a set of scales. There's a photo of it on Facebook for that specific reason. It's so I'm accountable. I'm measuring myself. I'm weighing myself every day. And I think I've lost at least a kilo since I bought those scales, because I can now work out and stuff in my own home, and I can see the effect that it's having, and I'm not going to go back to what I call being an all-rounder. An all-rounder in the old scales, they only went up to 120 kilos. So if you stepped on the scale and it hit 120, right? That's an all-rounder. It's done a full loop of the scales. So I never wanted to get that big, and I'm not attacking anybody if you are that big. You know, you've got your own health issues. You see your own doctors and do whatever they recommend and things like that, right? Getting up and going for a walk around the block every day, right? That's going to have a massive impact. Just that small thing is going to have a massive impact at the end of the year. And you've got to think long term like that, right? Just little things like that. Get up and move. Life is too short, and really, I think that I've been taking a lot of crap. I've been taking a lot of crap. A lot of stuff for granted. Anyway, this place the woman that runs it is absolutely nice, polite. She laughed at my joke. A few of the jokes that I told while I was there. She wants a nice, positive, happy atmosphere. So if you are in Smithfield and you are looking for volunteer work or a work for the Dole program, because that's why I went down there. I wanted to check because I'm having to do work for the Dole because I'm unemployed. They make you do work for your welfare. But I managed to wrangle it so that I'm only having to cross the road. So I'm only 10 minutes away from a 10-minute walk away from where I'm doing it. So that's okay. I still get paid the travel money or whatever it is, thankfully. Now I'm coming up towards the end of the show. Thank you to everybody who listened this far. I know the conversation's been dominated by the one subject of like weight loss and stuff like that. I'll have to get my computer fixed sometime in the next few weeks. Scientists are saying there's possibility of a ninth planet in our solar system. I've got to have a little bit of science in here, but it might take them 5 years to find it. I want to say a bit of a shout out to Dan, who listens to the podcast, Adam, who listens to the podcast every week, or every time it's on, Smiler, Tyler, Beck, and Heath, and Raggy, and pretty much everybody who listens to the podcast. Please leave me a message down below, and what you can do to let me know that you've listened this far is to use a code word, and the code word today is FARM, F-A-R-M, the word farm, and you just leave it in a sentence anywhere on YouTube or in the Facebook group or anywhere else, and I will know that you've listened this far, because it is a long ramble, and I do apologise for that. But I'm back with a vengeance. I hope that you have enjoyed 2016 so far. I'm having a bit of a rough go of it, but we'll grow together. That's the other thing. I didn't have any New Year's resolutions. I don't have any real goals, but I'm writing down the plans and things that I need to do to make this year better than last year. And I hope that you do too. Anyway, may this week and the rest of today be easy like a Sunday morn. I got that wrong, didn't I? May today and the rest of the week be easy like a Sunday morn. See you next week. Bye for now.